So, all right, start on that side of the table. What do you guys think of the game?
It's really, so I played the first edition of this, and it's really interesting to, like, it's the same idea, but it's really just much more, like, streamlined and kind of readable, I guess. So so I like that about, like, it's really, it just, I can look at the board state and be like, okay, I have some idea what's going on, whereas the first edition I'd be like, I don't think I have an idea what's going on.
That's exactly where I was, and wasn't that one of the design features?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and first round, I had no idea what I needed to do. Second round, a little more short, but like the more I saw everyone else pulling levers, pushing buttons, the more I realized, oh, okay, if I do this and do that, that'll be good, and maybe I can win. Maybe I can get 2 points. But man, trying to figure out how to be the one who wins is really tough in this.
Yeah, so Chuk, you wrote, Russians win the war without showing up. Sometimes the only way to win is not to play. And there's a little bit of that. So one of the things, I'll just say just from a design perspective, reducing the opacity was like primary goal. Make it so that you can, when you look at the board, you can see. Now, despite that, Edward kept saying, game's not hard, but it's really opaque.
And it is.
Right, but the game state was clear, and I think that one of the things that some people were worried about when we announced the project and we're working on it is that it might become a little obvious. It is not obvious.
No.
That same feeling, we were like, how am I going to like thread this needle through? And I feel like that's the thing that even though mechanically this is sharing less, this to me feels like as distant from the PAX series as PAX Emancipation or something. It's like way out there on the orbit. But in terms of that, those strategic concerns of like, what does good strategy look like? I feel like it's hard.
That's what I mean by the opacity. The rules really aren't that hard. It's pretty straightforward. But the big thing, and every time I give examples of yours and Phil's games, that you guys just design in a different way than most anybody else out there. I think you could also probably put Tom Russell in that conversation as well. The way you guys think about games is just different, and it's hard to wrap your head around because I have played John Company a number of times. I enjoy the game, but if I go too long, I'm like, so what am I trying? Why am I trying to do the things that I'm trying to do? And that, reading the board state, it was very clear to me. This was again my third game of this specific. There might have been small changes here and there, but it's the third game of the second edition, and I want the game to be hard in a sense that I understand what I'm trying to do. I know how to do it. The hard part is being able to do how I want, when I want, where I want, et cetera, and manipulating you guys into getting me in a position to where I can do what it is that I want to do. That's what I want in this game, and this does a really good job. I know there are people that probably prefer the first edition, but without a lot of experience for myself with the first edition, this feels like the right weight for me to be able to get this to the table, for it to be able to make sense, and to be able to enjoy it to where it makes sense to me and everybody I'm playing with. That's what I want in the game. How about you?
Well, so I do prefer the first edition.
And I knew that. That's why I said that. Okay, right.
And yet, this is the one I'll play more because it's just easier to get to the table. It's easier to explain to people. And it still has that element of you really have to watch the game state, what's coming up, what people are doing. And yet you really can't anticipate it because it depends on what cards come out and when they come out. And you're not even seeing all the cards in the game. So every game is going to be so vastly different. I had a card in one of my plays of this that allowed me to just move spies.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And so, I mean, my discs were out. I could just keep my discs going out. I used that action every time. I was like, keep them out. And yeah, but that was a completely different game than this, where we were competing over regions, and that never cleared. I've never seen that.
And it's not just what cards come out; it's what cards. the same card could be in your hand, and the same card could be in your hand. And what you use it for can be vastly different, even though it's the same damn card.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I think that adds to the, okay, I cannot plan perfectly on what you guys are doing, and I don't have the mental capacity to be able to track, okay, you took this card, you took that's beyond me. And, I mean, the fact that all these blocks never wiped once, it's the first time I've seen it in
Never
games
seen
that happened, but I think that's a good thing because it shows the different way that the game can play. But
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I am usually good at tracking. Okay, so they took that, and I'll remember, and I do remember, and I still don't. It still doesn't help that I remembered what card you grabbed.
Right.
Because how you use that card could be completely different from how I would have used that card.
Yes.
and what faction I am at the time
Yes.
changes how that card gets used, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, well done, dude.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Yeah, this was a really fun project for me to work on. It was, I mean, it was hard because revisiting your old stuff is tough, but
Right.
it was never difficult to work on it, and it ate weekends for the better part of a year, but we were always glad to work on it.
Good job, Drew.
Yeah, good job, Drew.
Somebody in the Peanut Gallery asked, why do you prefer the first edition?
I could be biased to the fact that I played it first and played it, the experiences I had playing it, but I don't mind the more convolutedness of it. I actually prefer that. So I like how it's...
The first edition also has like weird negotiation rules
Yes.
that not every group deploys, but it can. The first edition is funny because it can be a lot of different things depending on the way that like the group that's playing it.
It is very dependent on who's playing the game.
Yeah.
And I just had really great experiences with it, so
Fair enough. That makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, I will say that I had a group of testers for PAX in Austin, and they would tell me like, even when the first edition came out, they're like, we're happy with how it came out, but our favorite plays were the very, very first plays of the game when it looked nothing. And where it wasn't even a good game. I'm not saying that about the first edition, but the early play tests were like barely functioning games. But sometimes those experiences are magical, and it doesn't like the quality of the game doesn't necessarily matter. So like one thing that I will say that an objective not met, and I just need to be okay with that, is one of the things that I want to do is the first edition of PAX usually takes a couple games before like people get into the story.
Right.
And I was trying to shorten that with this one, and it didn't. It takes 3 or 4 games within a short time span to be like, oh, there's a story that's unfolding here.
Right.
And that's just the barrier, and I can't get around it. And maybe I'll try to get around it with the next game, because for me, like this is a whole nother conversation about storytelling in games where you need to have sort of mental space to conceive the story.
And you're too busy trying to be
I
like,
wasn't looking,
trying to...
think about when you play Bonanza, how you'll look at each other's faces a lot, and you're like, can I... This bean, maybe, and so a lot, or rather this bean,
right?
So,
right.
but like a lot of the communication is happening, like we're looking into each other's eyes a lot, right? And in this, I hardly looked at the other people at the table because I was like, okay, those cards are there, these cards are. There's a lot of things that we processed.
Right. It's very much heads up in a sense. So we actually just reviewed Teotihuacan to where it's more heads down because there's a lot less player interaction in a game like that than this. But this is very much a heads up game to where I'm not necessarily looking at you, Cole, looking at you, but what I damn sure am looking at your tableaus, looking at what's on the board, looking at the game state, and trying to play 5 people's game. Theme, we'll get there.
Sure, it takes some time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And if you want that theme immediately, like play Cash and Guns. and I love Cash and Guns. But there are different there are just different ways that you can kind of register with the game. I mean, there was one group I remember playing with that said that they made a rule that they had to read the card's flavor text.
Yes.
And the game took longer, but they felt much more like in the world.
Right.
Which.
Right. And that we could have done that. It would have been a 5-hour stream.
It would have been a 5-hour
We didn't want.
Right.
We didn't want.
And
to do that,
and I would say like with the games I tend to play with like my core testers and with Drew, they are very clearly telling stories. But I've also played this with Drew like 100 times. So
there's that.
You kind of build into it.
So, all right, anything else?
Well, just on that, I love the fact that the flavor text is on here. And there was times when people were like taking time on their turn, and I was just like reading through and being like,
that is true,
oh,
yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool that person did that thing and he died in that weird way.
Yeah.
That's how most of the flavor text goes.
Yeah.
insight to Cole. All right, so I guess that's it.
Yeah.
So thank you again to Cole
was my
for
absolute
bringing the
pleasure.
game, for designing the game, the whole 9 yards. Thank you to
Absolutely.
Drew for hanging out in chat, even though I know you got to get up early tomorrow. And thank you to everybody that hung with us and that watched. This was really enjoyable for us.
Likewise.
Hopefully that conveyed to you guys. And real quick, how can folks still get copies if they watch this?
You can. So if you're in the United States, you can go to BackerKit right now and buy it. We did a bad job pricing this game, so you're getting a really good deal right now. Like, it's going to be like probably $80, $85, maybe even $90 regular when we're selling it on our website. Right now it's like $65, I think. So now's a good time to buy it. If you're
These
not,
things are heavy as hell.
they,
So
yeah,
beautiful.
it's very, very heavy. If you're not in the United States, additional orders. So like you could order from us for a while, but that's now closed. Eventually, Phil will be selling some throughout through
Phil
his
being
website.
Phil Eklund through Sierra Madre
Right.
Games, which is
And
on
I-
game design.
Yeah, and I can't remember exactly what the arrangement is for like regions in Asia. Ask Drew or send us a message on Kickstarter. That's the way you can get it. And a reminder too that like if you happen to be at PAX over the next few days, come say hi. I'm at the Leader Games booth. We're right on the edge of the tabletop.
He does root too, if you guys don't know. Yeah, speaking of PAX, if you're going to be at PAX, we're going to be there as well, since
Yes.
it's our local convention as well. There you go. So again,
That's it.
thanks everybody. If you guys liked it, like and subscribe down below. You
Please.
want to go one step further, and what's scrolling directly beneath us right now, you can go to pledgehc.com, support the show there. Definitely appreciate it. Helps us continue to be able to do stuff like this whenever friends are in town, like Cole is here.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll catch you all Sunday night with Churchill. Until
Yeah.
then, take care, everybody. I'm Edward.
I'm Jess.
Andrew.
I'm Greg.
I'm Cole.
All right, have a good night, guys. Take care, everybody.